repeated the issue around wastage of resources in the counties. I wanted to inform him that in the committees that we sit in, the watchdog committee, I don't know whether he sits in one, we always have our partners come to those committees, and one of those partners is EACC. And the EACC should be in the forefront of fighting for mismanagement for our resources in the counties. And he should speak very strongly to the EACC, because we have never seen EACC rolling any head of governors, and we have seen Senate that does a very good job.
What is the point of information?
That in our
that
committees,
he should use EACC?
Yes, and,
okay.
And they're in our committees as partners whenever we are doing watchdog committees.
Okay.
Asante. Hayo ni maarifa mazuri. Nisema tena, hayo ni maarifa mazuri ameniarifu kuhusu taasisi hii ambayo inapaswa kuchangamkia mambo ya ufisadi. Kwa sababu ufisadi, Bispika, ndio kiegezo kikubwa ambacho kinafanya mambo yasitendeke. Na kwa sababu si yuko katika kamati yoyote ambayo umetaja, na kuna hii taasisi ambayo inapaswa kushughulikia hayo mambo, na sema ya kwamba hii taasisi inapaswa, Bispika, kuwajibika kabisa, ndio Kenya iende mbele. Na Kenya itaenda mbele namna gani ikiwa gatuzi zetu zitasonga mbele? Bispika, nikimalizia naunga mkono na haya marekebisho. Nilitaka Okongo Mugeni nimweleze, angesema ya kwamba hizi hela zimeongezwa ziweze kusemekana ni za kazi gani, ni za kutengeneza barabara, za kutengeneza zahanati, ndio zisiende tu kiholela, zikifika katika gatuzi zikuwe hazina kazi. Ni tuziweke ziwe na sababu fulani zinaenda, ziwe ni kutengeneza mabawa ya maji, ni za kutengeneza shule za chekechea, ama ni za kutengeneza barabara. Na kiwa ni barabara kiasi gani, na barabara ni aina gani, ndio tuweze kujua. Bispika, naunga mkono na nashukuru kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to support the amendment by Senator Okongo Mugeni, Senator Nyamira, on the revenue or fourth basis of sharing revenue. Madam Speaker, I must say that we've come from very far. Previously, Madam Speaker, in the 80s, we had a one-party state, and we had resources being shared centrally. In 1965, Madam Speaker, there was the sessional paper number 1 that stated that we have gotten independence. How do we share our resources to ensure that we get development and fast, speedy economic growth? Madam Speaker, according to sessional paper number 1, resources were sent to areas with high potential, Madam Speaker, areas with rainfall and fertile soils. There were areas, Madam Speaker, that were left behind in terms of development, and these areas mainly were in the lower eastern coastal region and the northern frontier district, Madam Speaker, the northeastern region. In 2003, Madam Speaker, we saw the passage of national government CDF, where we saw some semblance of redistribution of resources through the CDF, where we had money going to constituencies, although largely, Madam Speaker, the members of National Assembly have misused that fund, and they have become like implementers, and thanks to the courts of law, which have pronounced themselves that this money really should not be used or applied by the members of National Assembly, because then they are not implementers of projects and programs, Madam Speaker, and that is only the executive that is supposed to implement projects. Madam Speaker, the clamor for a new constitution started after the repeal of Section 2A in 1992, and in 2005, Madam Speaker, there was an attempt to change the constitution, but why that constitution did not go through was because there was no devolution. And some of us who are coming from the coastal region of Kenya, we wanted, in fact, majimbo or regionalism. But the people who are making the constitution felt that we would be balkanizing our country into 8 former provinces. And so that constitution did not see the light of the day. And we saw the advent of movements like the Orange Democratic Movement. And in 2010, Madam Speaker, we gave ourselves a new constitution that saw, to a great extent, redistribution of resources, Madam Speaker, where we had money coming from the center, that is Nairobi, to the counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I must say that the counties were too small and they are largely not viable. In 2020, Madam Speaker, some of us who felt that our counties are too small and unviable really supported the Building Bridges initiative, which one of the suggestions was that we reduce the counties to 14. That clause did not see the light of the day, and it was removed at the initial stages of BBI. And later on, we said let's remain with the 47, but then let's increase the money to the counties to at least at 35%. The rest, Madam Speaker, is history, because then BBI itself did not go through because of the courts declared it being unconstitutional, Madam Speaker. The best thing, Madam Speaker, that we gave ourselves as Kenyans in the 2010 Constitution was devolution. Some of our counties are very small, Madam Speaker. In Taita Taveta, we have only 384 people, and the registered voters around 160,000, whereas such a number in the central, in some constituencies, central like Ruto, Madam Speaker, they have over 200,000 voters per constituency. That in our county is just the whole county. So, Madam Speaker, to get resources, we are being asked, so how many votes are you bringing on the table so that we can give you development? And the votes really were really few. So, Madam Speaker, in the advent of devolution, we thought that we have a panacea to the problems that were existing in our county. But then, by and by, as we look at how devolution is working, we feel that the money that is going to the very small counties that have been identified as Taita Taveta, Isiolo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nyamira, Lamu, Laikipia, Vihiga, Kirinyaga, and Embu, that these counties are too small and unviable, and they get less than 6 billion, Madam Speaker. That money largely goes to paying salaries and doing operations, and very little money, Madam Speaker, is left to do development. Madam Speaker, we are now again discussing the fourth basis for sharing revenue, something that we did, Madam Speaker, in 2020, and I can assure you, Madam Speaker, then it was extremely divisive. As other speakers have said, it took months to pass that third basis for sharing revenue, Madam Speaker. In fact, it took the intervention of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I remember then I went to State House with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga with the leadership of the Senate. I was representing Team Kenya because then we were in the mood of handshake then, and the Right Honorable implored upon the President then, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to add some money to counties so that no county can lose money. I remember in 2020, in the new revenue sharing formula, Taita Taveta was going to lose 400 million. Some counties were going to gain. The highest gainer was Nandi, which was going to gain 1.4 billion. Because then, Madam Speaker, we were sharing the same cake as that we shared in 2019-2020, 316.5 billion. Now, in 2020-2021, we were called upon to share the same cake, but with a new basis, with a new formula. So definitely, if you're sharing the same cake with a new formula, some counties would lose and some counties would gain. So the counties that were losing were a total of 19 counties, and Taita Taveta was one of them. But as we were negotiating with others, I remember imploring upon the senator, the late senator for Machakos. His county was gaining, but we asked him, if you are coming from the lower eastern region and Makueni and Kitui is losing, why can't you support them? These are your cousins. Support them so that they don't lose money. And Senator Kabaka, may God rest his soul, eternal peace, accepted to join the fray. We also spoke to Senator Malala of Kakamega because then his county was gaining, but then Vihiga was losing, and we requested him to join the fray because then the cousins are also losing. And I like also the magnanimity of Senator for Nairobi, then Senator Sakaja, and Senator Murkomen, who agreed that much as their counties were gaining money in the new basis for sharing revenue, but we are still one Senate of Kenya, whose sole role is to defend counties and their governments. And so they decided to support us. We started as 19 people, and at the end we were 27. But then in the wisdom of the Honorable Raila Odinga, he said, we would divide this Senate and we would divide this country across the middle. We'll balkanize it to people who deserve to have more money and some to have less money. So when he talked to the president then, the president agreed to add the shareable revenue or to agree to have the DORA pass the shareable revenue from 316 billion to counties to 370 billion, an increment of 53.5 billion, Madam Speaker. And I remember my county then was supposed to lose 400 million, but then it gained 600 million and it got a leap from 4.2 billion to 4.8 billion. That was quite a leap. Madam Speaker, an increment of Indora of 50 billion was the largest that I've ever seen in Kenya. Madam Speaker, I want to say that I want to thank the Committee of Finance and Budget, led by Honorable Roba, for ensuring that the new revenue sharing formula or the fourth basis for sharing revenue is not going to divide us. Because previously, we could not even sleep. We could have people making calls from State House and from all over Kenya, because then they wanted us to vote. I remember my governor calling me, telling me that, don't worry, you'll not lose money this year, you lose it next year, and told him, rubbish. How can you agree we lose 400 million, yet when we lose 400 million, we are losing it for 5 years. That is 2 billion. So there's nothing like that. But I'm happy that the Committee of Finance and Budget has agreed to hold counties harmless by making sure that we share 387.5 billion to all the counties using the third basis of sharing revenue, and then the additional amount which will be determined by DORA be shared using the new basis. Madam Speaker, even when we use the new basis to share revenue, Taita Taveta will only get a leap from 5.0 billion to 5.25 billion, which is quite some little money. Through negotiation, through discussions, through seducing the members of the Finance Committee.
Guys, order, let's listen.
They agreed to put 2 billion. That then would ensure that the small counties, the 11 counties in question, get at least some little money on top, and that, Madam Speaker, is taking Taita Taveta to 5.3 billion. Still, that is very little because our wage bill is at 56%, Madam Speaker. Even if we add that around 250 million, still would be much below what we require to do development. Development expenditure, Madam Speaker, what is in the budget for development for Taita Taveta is 1 billion. So even if you add the 300 million, it would just be 1.3 billion. Madam Speaker, we would want to push this money to go to 6 billion. That was our view. But even as we fight for 6 billion for the small counties, I'm agreeable to the discussants and the contributors who have contributed to this motion that if we add on top of the 2 billion, 2.6 billion to make it 4.6 billion, then Taita Taveta County will get 400 million on top, and that would take us to 5.7 billion, still a far cry from 6 billion, but it is much better. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank Senator Okongo Mogeni for bringing this motion over to amend So that we add 2.6 billion more, because at the counties there are so many things that we want to do as governments. For example, Madam Speaker, counties need to do budgets that are predictable. Right now, if we have some counties losing money, then, Madam Speaker, will not achieve the objectives of our budgets. Most counties have CBAs for doctors that are waiting for this basis to pass, for the new budget to pass, for the new DORA to pass, so that the CBAs can be honored, and so that we stop our medics from going on strike and tampering with service delivery in the counties, Madam Speaker. All the county workers, Madam Speaker, require a pay rise, given that our government has been adding taxes over one tax over another one. Right now they have SHA, they have NSSF that has been enhanced. They have, Madam Speaker, the new housing levy, which, Madam Speaker, largely is being used, I would say, unconstitutionally, because there was no public participation that